The other day you read about how Rome is a republic, and we even talked about how it's very similar to our government today. This page 5 also talks about how Rome is a republic, and it also mentions how it has hints of democracy as well. If you remember back to ancient Greece, democracy is when all people are a part of their government. All people vote, all people have a say. Um, we're going to talk about how the republic is similar to that. So they have similarities and differences to the government in Athens. So one of the differences is that Athens was a direct democracy where all citizens could vote. Rome, Athens is in Greece. If you remember, I don't want you to get confused. So in Greece, it was a direct democracy. Everybody votes. In Rome, it's a representative government where leaders are elected by the people to serve in government. So they vote on who they want to serve in government, and they represent the views of everybody. And that is basically what we have here in the United States. So we elect people, and they are in charge of hearing us out and making decisions for us. So in Rome, not everybody is represented. Another thing that is similar is they have a separation of power, which means that no one person or group has all the power. Okay, so not one person is in charge. That is the same in our government. The United States government is separated into three branches: the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, and each hold their own powers and responsibilities. So the president, yes, he's the head of our government, but he doesn't make all the decisions. It's called a balance of powers, or separation of powers, where everyone has their own role, not just one person is in charge. And in Rome, it was the magistrates, the Senate, and the People's Assembly. So similar, three different branches. So although the Romans were wary of one person obtaining too much power, they did believe that if they were in a time of crisis, they would elect a dictator, who is one ruler, to have total control of the government. And that person would rule for 6 months. So they did believe that there were some times where they just wanted one person in charge. One of those times, they elected Cincinnatus, and he led Rome to victory, and then immediately resigned as dictator, even though his 6 month term was not over. So he was an ideal politician, an ideal person in charge, because he used his power to help Rome, not for his own personal gain. So he didn't let the power get to his head. The responsibilities of citizenship were also very important to the Romans. That means what you do as a citizen. Okay, they believe that everybody should have a part in their government. Like, some are expected to serve in the military, some are going to be actual government representatives. They should believe in their country. We also hold that concept very true to us today. We have voting. We expect our citizens over 18 to vote. We do have a military that citizens can join. Every citizen in the United States is supposed to pay taxes, and they all might be called on to serve on a jury. So that is also something very important to them and to us today, is being a good citizen. And the last thing they talked about on that page is having a written code of laws. Just like we have today, we have all of our laws written down. They wrote their own laws, and they were called the 12 Tables, and they were displayed so that everybody could see. They made sure that everyone had agreed on those laws. The last page on this part of the textbook talked about the Punic Wars. So that just was basically how Rome was expanding its empire. So Rome started in the very central part of Italy, and it grew to be a really large empire. So they just kept conquering more and more land. Its territory became so large that the Republic could call on nearly 800,000 soldiers from its many lands. So if they needed to go to war, they had 800,000 soldiers. So for approximately 2 centuries after the Roman Republic was formed, they expanded its territory by conquering other small states throughout the Italian peninsula. They also hoped to gain control of important shipping lanes in the Mediterranean Sea. They were controlled by Carthage, a powerful city in North Africa. Their attempts to control shipping throughout the Mediterranean led to a series of 3 wars against Carthage, and those were called the Punic Wars. I'm not going to go into detail about each war right now, but it is written right here. The Punic Wars began the spread of Roman influence throughout the region. So just like in China, ideas and goods were traded on the Silk Road. Well, when Rome is conquering all of these areas, they are also influencing other areas, and the other areas are influencing them. So they had a lot of territory and a lot of influence. They brought with them new cultures and ideas. And the last thing they talked about here is as they grew in Rome, there were also some conflicts. Members of the government disagreed about whether to continue expanding Roman territory. Some thought the empire was growing too large, while others wanted to gain more land and power. These conflicts sometimes led to violence. In addition, there were conflicts between the social classes. As Rome expanded, it conquered new territories that produced more goods. It had less need for the crops that Roman farmers grew, and many farmers and members of the working class no longer made enough money then. So that too led to violence.